Hello friends, myself Shriram Korde. Now we will see some more examples with respect to functions, and here we would like to basically make use of our knowledge that we have developed with respect to pointers. The reason I am saying that is, let's say this example. Here I want to write a function which is going to compute area and perimeter, and it should be the same function. That means it should return both these values. Now when I say area and perimeter, it can be for say rectangle, it can be for any other object. We can basically make it simple and we will say that I want to find area and perimeter for a circle. So let's see now how do you develop that. Now when I want to develop this function, obviously I will have to take some input from user, so that input also we will take from user appropriately. So let's get into it. So let us say that I want to calculate area and perimeter in one function, and I am taking example as say circle. Okay, so I want to basically do it for a circle. Now that means now I will develop a function. So let's now write a function, and now since it should return two values, so obviously you cannot have a return type. Why? Because return can only return one value with the existing knowledge that we have. That means now I need to make use of pointers, and that's the basically the focus of this example. So I will have to have a function. So I will obviously say return type is void, and now the function will be say calculate, and it's going to calculate what we want is two things. So we want basically area. So I will just say AR for area and PR for perimeter. So calculate AR and PR. So that's essentially the function that we basically are going to develop. Now this is a declaration. So I'm going to declare it. Now obviously because is going to do the calculation, so at least you require input to it. So what can be the input? So obviously you require radius as an input, and then after that it's going to basically provide us with two answers. That means that answer will be area as well as perimeter. That means now I have to develop a function here void, and I will give the name that we just give, calculate ARPR. Okay, and now it should basically take radius. So radius can be integer. We could always give it float, but just to keep it simple, right now I am keeping radius as integer. So let me just put integer r for radius. That means radius of the circle. And now the important thing is it is going to take two parameters which it is going to compute, and those two parameters will be passed to this function area and perimeter calculation using reference. That means now when I call this function from main calculate ARPR, so obviously I will require a local variable r where I am going to take input from user. So here obviously I will do printf. So I will do printf and I will say enter radius, and then I am going to do scanf on this radius. So that way now I got the radius as an input from the user. Now what is happening, I can pass this r, so that's not an issue. If you are getting confused, we can keep here rad, okay, so that we can have a separate name. So this is the radius, and I can always pass this radius as the first parameter. Now the thing is, I want to have the two values which essentially are returned in a way indirectly returned from the function calculate AR and PR. That means now I have to have two variables here, and I will keep it as float. Why? Because it is going to compute area, and it's going to, so let me just keep it A and P for perimeter. Okay, so here I will just give A is for area and another is P is for perimeter. This is for perimeter. Okay, so now we basically have to pass this. So how do I do that? Obviously I will have these things passed as addresses. So I will pass this address of these two things. So this is essentially we are doing, first is a value. So first parameter passing is by value, that means radius, and other is using reference. That means the two remaining two are with reference. So this is very important. The two, one. Okay. So the two are references, ampersand A and ampersand B. Now obviously after this I am going to print the value. So what will I print here? So printf, and then I can do here area and peri. I'll just make it short, and then we can have here percentage f, and then we can have backslash n, and then we will have a comma p. So that means now it's going to print area and perimeter of the circle using printf. Okay, so that is done, and then here you will see this ampersand a and ampersand b and p am sending. That means now here the data types should be like this. So integer, that is the first for radius. The second one is float star. Why it is a pointer now? So we are using float pointer, and then we are using another as a float pointer. Okay, so that means now here I require float star. I will just make it PA for area, and float star PP for perimeter. Now we can basically just compute here. So now we know that area of circle and area of that means the perimeter of basically circle is circumference. That is essentially it's a perimeter. When we say perimeter, so what we are talking now about is a circumference. Okay, so that is what we are talking. Okay, so here now we can simply do star of A, that is area, is equal to, that is 3.14 is the pi r square. So we know the equation pi is to 3.14, and then I simply multiply using r into r. So this equation we know, that is 3.14 r square. So this we know from our school days, pi r square. Okay, so if I just want to put it, this is pi r square. Okay, so this equation we know. Now here obviously we will have a PA. Why? Because I am using this star of PA. Why? Because this is now a pointer. So I want to value to get reflected here. That's why I am using star of PA. So that concept has been explained to you in the previous video. Similarly, now I will have star of PP. So star of PP is what? 2 pi r. So 2 into 3.14, that is 2 into 3.14, 2 pi r. So into r. So this is what basically 2 pi r. That is the definition of or the equation that we have studied in our school days. So I think that's it. So I hope these things are very simple now. Why? Because now what will happen? So PA is equal to ampersand of A. So what internally how this basically happens? Let me just put a comment here. So essentially what happens is PA is equal to, what we are doing internally is PA is equal to ampersand of A, and PP is equal to ampersand of perimeter, that is P. So that is what will happen, and that's why we have done star of PA. That means the value will get overwrite, or the value where it is pointing. So that particular location will have this value after, based on this calculation. Okay. So let's see this in action now. I hope there are no other compiler errors. Yeah. So we will enter a radius. So let me enter a radius of say 2. So area is 12.56, and then here you will see this. Yeah. So basically it is the same thing, because 2 into 2 into 4. So let's put a different value here. So let's put here say 5. Yeah, so it is different now. So pi r square essentially. So we can use a calculator. So area we can just say 3.14 into r square. That means 5 into 5. So 78.5. So that is correctly that is the correct answer. And then 2 pi r. So 2 into 3.14 into 5. Yeah, so 31.4. So this is the correct answer. That means it is computing correctly. And now I hope this is very clear. So here now you will see this ampersand A is kept and ampersand P is kept. That means whatever the location essentially we are sending the address of A and address of P, and then using star of that, what is happening is that whatever the calculation are done, so that particular address gets written with these values, which is 78, and that's the way you essentially have written two values indirectly. That means using references, you pass by value and pass by reference. So here essentially we have used a mixed mode. So what we have done essentially is, so let me just put it, so here it is mixed mode. Why? Because radius was passed by value and area, that is the area and perimeter, that was passed by reference. So it is essentially called as mixed mode. It is called as mixed mode or mixed way of passing. Okay. So that's the first example that we have seen now. Another example on the similar lines we can have it. Let us say that I want to compute sum of marks and average. So that means we can take input from user for multiple subjects, say mathematics, physics, chemistry, or whatever, computer science, maths, like that. So we can have, basically we can take some input from user, and then we can compute the sum of the marks, that is what is the total out of 300, and then we can always compute the average, and we want to do that in a single function. So what we should do is, let us say that I will just give the name as void, and then I will basically give the name as, say, compute. Okay, do some computation. Okay, so right now we are not bothered too much about what it is computing, so let me just make it simple. Compute, say, marks related activity. Okay, so I will just have, now we have to basically provide multiple inputs, so we will give that. Okay, so before that, first let's write a simple this one. So here we will first say printf, and then you basically have to tell user enter 3 subject marks. Obviously we are assuming it's 100 marks paper. Okay, so we are assuming out of 100. Okay, that is what are the marks that a student has obtained. So we will make it here, subjects are there, so 3 subjects are there, M1, M2 and M3. Okay, so these are the 3 subjects, or we could have, if you are finding it difficult, we will easily make it simple, S2, S3. Okay, so these are the 3 subjects, S1, S2, S3 are the 3 subjects that you want to enter marks, and then you want to have computation with respect to average. That means average, when you say average, obviously it's a percentage. Okay, so when we say average, essentially what we are talking about, it is a percentage. How much percentage of marks the person or a student has got. Okay, so that means now you require 2 variables. So obviously sum of marks can be integer, that's not an issue, so we can keep it here integer. So integer we will say sum of marks, and then average or percentage I will just put it PER, which basically can be float. Okay, so we will make it here float. So I could have written sum of marks here itself, so I will just put it sum of marks. Okay, so you don't require, or a total, what we are basically talking about is a total marks. Okay, and then percentage. So now we will compute, we will call this function, and then we will print. Okay, so we will print here, what we will print? Printf, and then we will say total, and then total and percentage. So we can have total, obviously is an integer, and this is a float. Okay, so we will have tot L. Okay, so this is what we have given the name, and then PER. Okay, so these are the 2 variables that we have used. Now the way in which we have written our earlier function, which was like compute area and this one. So on the similar lines, now we require to write, we need to write that function. So here compute. So I have just made it COMP, and then compute marks, and here obviously the first one will be the 3 different marks. Okay, so let me just make it here int A, int B and int C. Why? These are the 3 subject marks, so I just made it ABC. Okay, then you want to get the sum. Okay, so here I will just make it S. Okay, why? It is a sum or a total, so we could give T, and then now the important thing is you want to compute percentage. Okay, now this percentage and T essentially is a, we have to use it this. Okay, so I will use pt, p is used for pointer. Similarly here float star p P. I'll just make it PP for percentage, or PPER I will put it. Okay. Okay. Now, so we are basically ready now. So that means now this declaration should have multiple values: integer, integer, and integer. These are three. Then int star and float star. So these are the basically that part of forward declaration. Now you know that this is a declaration that we are doing. So this is called as forward declaration. Okay, so we have done that, and that is called as signature also. Now we just need to call basically the function, and obviously we have to say scanf. So we'll do scanf, and then we will say percentage d, and percentage d, and here we will have ampersand s1, that is subject, ampersand s2, and ampersand s3. So these are the three subject marks that we user enters it, and now we simply call the function comp marks. Then you essentially pass s1 comma s2 comma s3. Then what you need to pass is ampersand total. Why? Because that is where you want it by, we need to have the value, that is total. What is the total sum total of the marks? And then ampersand of PER. So we just have done it. Now we need to basically compute. So what we should do is star of PER, that is the percentage, is equal to, what is that? So first thing is we have to do star of PT. Why? Because PT is total. So total is A plus B plus C. That is the total marks. Okay, so this is done. Then you require a PPR, P and percentage. So if you find it little difficult to type so many things, I'll just make it simple. So star PR, that is, sorry, star PP, and then what we want is A plus B, A plus B plus C. Now this should get divided by 300 into 100. So that means it should just divided by 3.0 float. That's it. Okay, and then that way you get, what we are doing is the sum total, whatever you got, that is total into 100 into, sorry, total divided by 300. Why? Because there are three subjects, so 300 we are able to divide it by 300, and then you want percentage, so you multiply it by 100. Okay, so it is the one and the same thing that I have done it here. Okay, so that is what you do. So let's now run this code. Okay, so we'll now enter the marks of the subject. Let us say I enter marks as 75, say 80, and I will just put it here, say 83. So total is 238, that is correct, and the percentage is also 79.33. So you can find it out very easily. It should be close to 80. Why? Because here on the left, on one mark was 75, another was 83. So obviously it will be little less than 80. Okay, so that's way you can compute, or you can always use calculator and can do the computation. So let's do the sum first. So 75 plus 80 plus 83. So that is, oh sorry, 75 plus 80 plus 83, that is 238 is correct, and then obviously 238 is gets divided by 3.0, that is 79.33. So that is what essentially you got the answer. So that means this is perfectly working, and now that's the way you understood. So here we essentially were doing integer because sum we wanted as calculation was integer, and here we used integer pointer. Why? Because you want total, which is the sum of the marks, and out of 300, and then the percentage for that basically marks is float. Okay, and that's why we have written it like this. Okay, and these are the two ways. That's the way essentially you do that. So these values are passed using value, and these are by references. So again, we have used here mixed mode, mixed approach we have used. I hope you like these examples. Thank you.